Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of The Elephant. We got a lot to get into tonight, so let's get after it. Starting with the first story from ABC News. Pam Bondi says that left-wing radicals are responsible for taking out Charlie Kirk. Yeah, and they will be held accountable, targeting those who engage in hate speech. Appreciate Pam Bondi using a major left-wing term there, targeting hate speech. She really could have just said inciting violence, people who openly threaten other people. For example, a YouTuber by the name of Destiny stated, "You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leaders to turn down the temperature. The problem is now they aren't afraid." Absolutely incorrect. Both of them. Pam Bondi needs to realize that we have a First Amendment here. And up until the line of inciting violence and saying that people should be taken out or inciting a riot, things like that, we might not agree with it. But that being said, being a free speech absolutist, I agree with their right to say it. People might not like me. People not like, the pink-haired people, the liberals. It doesn't matter. As a country that has a free speech amendment, you have to be for it or you're against it. There is no in between. We have laws on the books that are protections against people who commit crimes, who support acts of terrorism, things like that. Saying you don't agree with someone isn't hate speech. It's there's a saying, you see it on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that now. It's not hate speech, it's speech that they hate. You might disagree with it all you want. That doesn't make it illegal. And whether I agree with it or not is besides the point. I support the open right for people to have opinions and to discuss them in a way that they please. Pam Bondi is absolutely off the rails with this one and has been on a few other things recently as well. You see a lot recently about people losing their jobs over Facebook posts. There's a gray area there. I don't know if I fully agree with. A lot of states, I don't know how many, but a lot of states, New Jersey, where I'm from, is one of them. It's an at-will state. You can be fired for anything. Doesn't really matter. They don't need a good reason to fire you. They can just fire you because. Unless they were inciting violence, as hurtful and as shameful and deplorable as it is, saying that you support someone being taken out is a gray area. Saying that they should be taken out and someone that should act upon that, that's different. But there's a fine line from inciting violence and saying that you are glad someone is no longer here. It is disgusting and it is shameful, and I might ruffle some feathers saying that, but it's the truth. You're saying, hey, everyone who voted Republican should be taken out is a lot different than saying, I'm glad I don't have to hear him anymore. There is a fine line between those two statements. From Fox News, another Venezuelan drug boat was taken out last night. And it, again, just like the last couple of videos, I think this is the third or fourth now, it looks like something out of Call of Duty. I completely support it. If they're on their way here to poison, which is what they're doing, our citizens, if they're here to push that stuff out into the streets, I'm absolutely for taking these people out as much as possible. I said what I said. I know a little bit earlier in this video, there's a difference between hate speech and there's a difference between free speech. When it comes to the protections of U.S. citizens here, you have to do what you have to do. And I'll put it that way. Speaking of, Trump deploys the National Guard to Memphis and says Chicago is next. This is also something I can get behind. Both of these cities are run by Democratic mayors and have been crime-ridden cesspools for a long time. Memphis has a proud history of music and barbecue and is a great city. But that being said, just like Chicago, has definitely gone down the tubes. And if the people who run that city aren't going to step in, then the person who runs the country overseeing the rest of those cities, at some point you got to step in to protect tax-paying Americans. You got to do what you got to do to make sure that the people in that city are safe and are comfortable, because no one deserves to live like how those cities are currently being ran. From the Washington Post, we would be less prone to obesity. And this one kind of threw me off a little bit here. The Washington Post is a dumpster fire of an organization, and sometimes they just throw shit at the wall just to see what comes out of it. From the Washington Post, we would be less prone to obesity and strokes if we ditched daylight savings. This goes into the mentality of it's never my fault. The victim mentality that there's always someone else to blame for my actions. Genetics, daylight savings, it's the food that we eat. How about you make better life choices? Maybe take some personal responsibility, adjust your schedule, set your alarm different, maybe eat a salad once in a while. And again, I know this might ruffle some feathers here. I don't really care. We've gone so far away from personal responsibility that everything is everyone else's fault. And we got to get back to personal accountability and personal responsibility, taking result for your actions. Forks aren't the reason why you're 500 pounds. Neither is McDonald's. It's the choice that you made to shovel that into your head instead of a steak or a salad or something a little healthier besides a McDouble or four. Speaking of being less obese, Cracker Barrel is rolling back all of their updated remodeling. They posted recently a video stripping back one of the remodeled stores with a caption saying that they're going back to what made us all fall in love in the first place. No one asked for that. No one asked for you to remodel a store. You guys were doing fine the way it was. You came in here, you wanted to change everything just to put a stamp on it, and it sucked. It looked like a Dollar General. It was god awful, and the stock price plummeted. If the stock price didn't go anywhere, trust me, they wouldn't be making these changes, but it all comes down to dollars and cents. I'm happy that they're going back to the way they were. That sterilized revamp of what they called a remodel or rebranding was god awful, and it should have been thrown out immediately when it got in front of the board. I'm happy they're going back to the way it was, and hopefully it stays that way. My final story of the night, and this is for the music fans out there. I'm sure over the last couple of years you've heard about Cowboy Carter, which is Beyonce's country album. It's a disaster from start to finish. It really is. And it's glad to see, or I'm glad to see, that finally things are course correcting. The CMAs are in a couple months, and this year she's not nominated for anything, and I couldn't be happier. This was a completely bought for campaign run that she had over the last year, winning awards in country music and the VMAs and all kinds of these awards that she won for a country album when it was the furthest thing from it. The music on there is terrible. It's oversaturated, it's auto-tuned, and it might be the furthest thing from country, more than Florida Georgia Line. And that's saying a lot. So those are my talking points for the night. Thanks for tuning in. This was the first full episode of The Elephant. Many more to come. Cheers.